Say you upgraded from the 2020 12.9-inch iPad Pro to the new M1 iPad Pro, and you own the old Magic Keyboard. Chances are you've seen the official statement saying while old keyboard is functionally compatible with new iPad, it may not precisely fit when closed. As an owner of the old Magic Keyboard, I definitely felt that when I read it the first time. So now the decision to make: should you spend $349 on an updated Magic Keyboard? Well, I have, and this video is me telling how it went. So first of all, how different is the fit? If you observe the intended design of the Magic Keyboard case, you'll find the iPad actually isn't supposed to rest flat against the keyboard. By design, it comes in at a slight angle, slightly elevated from the hinge side. This way there's an air gap between your iPad screen and the keyboard. Now, because the 12.9-inch model of the M1 iPad Pro has grown half a millimeter thicker, if you use it with the old keyboard, it does not leave any room for the air gap, and instead your iPad rests flat on the keyboard. Now, good news is, it's not so much thicker to the point you can't fully shut the keyboard. It's just that instead of resting only one edge on the keyboard like it was designed to, it's now kind of just placed right down against it, which means there is significantly more of your screen coming into contact with the surface of your keyboard. If any speck of dirt or grit made its way onto your keyboard, the last thing you want to do is slam your iPad Pro into that. So if there's a gap between your iPad and the keyboard, that's your safety margin. But also, I could be overthinking this whole thing and that gap was just meant to leave room for screen protectors. Either way, you lose that gap if you use the old Magic Keyboard with the new iPad. The second thing to consider is the hinge. The hinge on the old keyboard wasn't very stiff to begin with. Couple that with the new iPad being heavier, you've got yourselves a setup that slams down quite easily and forcefully when you close it. The new model has a much stiffer hinge that makes things harder to slam. This next thing is something that I find nobody's really talking about, and that's how on the new M1 iPad, it actually has a slightly different arrangement of magnets on its back. The new Magic Keyboard has its arrangement of magnets updated to accommodate that, but that unfortunately means the new iPad is actually less optimized for the old Magic Keyboard's pattern, which actually results in a noticeably weaker hold. Get this, the new iPad on the old keyboard actually has a weaker hold than the old iPad on the old keyboard. Now, the strength of these magnets is not really something I can quantify on camera, so I'm going to have to describe it in words. The attraction is much snappier. It has more of a snap to it when you use the M1 iPad Pro on its intended new keyboard. It still lines up and attaches just fine with the old keyboard, but you can feel it's not quite pulling in as hard when you attach it. Also, it's much easier to just yank it off. I should make it clear that although you do get a weaker hold on the old keyboard, it's still quite a safe amount of holding force for it to be usable, and it's not really gonna pop off accidentally either. But the stronger hold on the new model certainly provides an elevated peace of mind. But speaking of that, one of the biggest considerations for upgrading the keyboard, in my opinion, is actually the psychological aspect of things. It might be different for everyone, but the thought of there being a better, more compatible version of Magic Keyboard for my beloved new iPad is what ultimately drove me to order this new keyboard. I know it would probably work just fine with my old keyboard, but I also know I wouldn't stop thinking about the new keyboard. So if the best iPad Pro plus Magic Keyboard experience is something you're not willing to compromise on, then you should consider the new keyboard. But if that's something you can live without, then you just saved yourself quite a bit of cash. Also, if a white Magic Keyboard's everything you ever wanted, then it goes without saying your only option is the new one. But the new keyboard also has a much better trackpad compared to the old one. I've gone over it in detail in this previous video I made. The trackpad is something you'll be interacting with a lot, so the minor tweak actually makes your experience quite a bit more pleasant. That video's up on the end screen if you're interested, but if not, why not check out some of my other videos then.